Hello, friends, and welcome to the Homewrecker podcast, where we wreck and shatter conventional wisdom and ways of thinking by bringing alternative viewpoints to light. I'm your host, Monique, and join with me, as always, is my husband, the awesome, most handsome, incredible former professional wrestler, the Golden Greek, Alex Sarion. Hi, Alex. How are you? How'd I do? We shook things up. I was trying so hard not to giggle.
You said you wanted to do the intro this week. You said, all right, why not?
I thought it would be fun.
Why not?
I wanted to try it.
So, boom. Well done.
Whoop, there it is. So, what's going on with you? What's new?
Oh, we're going to flip-flop everything. So, okay, nothing.
Wow. Tell me more.
There you go. How's that? How's that for podcasting? Yes. No, nothing's new. Just the same old stuff. The same stuff that is always going on. But it's fine. It's great. It's a wonderful life I live. I'm very happy.
It's wonderful, wonderful. Oh, so wonderful, my love.
Isn't that that's the end of the theme song? Okay. I see what you did there.
Yeah.
I apologize. I'm a little slow today. But what's new with you?
Waiting to get chickens. That's one thing. Doing lots of baking,
More
hypnotherapy, tarot, organite. For those who haven't listened to the most few recent podcasts, I got a TikTok, and it's Monique Pliakis on TikTok. Please follow me. And if you're interested in hypnotherapy, you can go to understandingshypnosis.com, schedule a free 20-minute consult, or you can check out one of my digital downloads for a fraction of the price of a one-on-one session. If you're interested in a tarot reading or organite or anything else that I make, go to tarotbymonique.com. And if you want to show your support, go to buymeacoffee.com/homewreckerpodcast. And we also have some bonus content on there that's available.
Wow.
Yeah.
Tremendous. Yeah, see, that was much better than nothing that I said. So, well done.
It's just our plugs.
Yeah, nice job. Anything else going on? I mean, you said you're waiting for chickens.
We're waiting to get more chickens.
Yes, we're going to get more chickens.
Yes.
And why are we getting more chickens?
More eggs.
Because I want more eggs, damn it.
Yes.
We're not getting enough eggs. Dag nabbit.
That's okay. So we're going to get more chickens.
Yes.
I've been doing a lot of baking, a lot of just making food.
It's a good thing.
It is. I love it.
It's a good thing.
I love it.
And it all tastes good, too, so it's a good thing.
It certainly does.
My waistline, though, it's furious.
I make like homemade Cheez-It crackers with sourdough discard. So good.
Yeah, those are really good.
Fresh out of the oven, and they're so easy to make.
Yeah. So that's great. Anything else that you want to mention or talk about before we get into today's topic? Jump into it?
Yeah.
All
Dive
right.
on in. So what are we talking about this week, my love?
This week, we are going to get right into it and talk about the Adam and Eve story. Now, you're listening and going, what? Why are we going to talk about? No. Not that Adam and Eve story. But this is the Adam and Eve story, The History of Cataclysms by Chan Thomas. What's a cataclysm?
A disastrous event that happens worldwide.
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's basically a planet ender, if you will. It's mass extinction level event, right? And Hollywood's tackled this subject many times. Most recently, I think the movie 2012.
The Day After Tomorrow.
The Day After Tomorrow was one of those.
San Andreas, kind of a little bit because of all the earthquakes. I don't know if that was worldwide.
I don't recall the story of that, but go ahead.
I'm trying to think. Event Horizon, was that about a cataclysm?
No, that was on a spaceship.
Oh, no, that's not what I'm thinking of.
Space.
I'm thinking of a different one where it's like they go down into like the earth, like deep down.
Deep down into the earth.
Yeah.
Ooh, I don't know.
Oh, and there's a guy in it who's in stuff. You love when I do that.
Yeah, it's
we'll
awesome.
be watching stuff. It's rubbed off on him. We'll be watching something. He's like, oh, that guy. I'm like, yeah, he's in stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The pronouns, pal.
Deep impact, sudden impact. Like, no, that's
like one of the deep. Wait.
Was it?
This is what the conversation's devolved into. Now we're thinking about movies.
Okay, I was just trying to think about world-ending movies.
I think Deep Impact, I believe, because that was like a comet was going to hit the Earth or something like that.
I don't know.
And it basically that was like wipes out
You asked
everybody.
me.
Yeah, I know. It's my fault. You're right. Anyway, all right. So
you started this derailment.
Okay, so the Adam and Eve story, The History of Cataclysms by Chan Thomas. Now, this book came to my attention. I've heard about it throughout the years, and I always heard that it was classified by the CIA. So this book was classified by the CIA in 1966. I've been hearing about it for years, just different conspiracy theory podcasts that I listened to, websites I've checked out, message boards I've gone on back in the day, and everybody talked about, this book, why did they classify it? It's about the end of the world and this and that and all these crazy theories, right? But nobody ever talked about how they read it. And then in 2013, the CIA declassified 57 pages of this 260-page book, and they released it because somebody did a Freedom of Information Act request, or a FOIA. And so they released it, and some of the pages, I guess, were redacted. I kind of like scanned through it, and I was like, this is okay. What's the big deal? And then upon doing some further research, I found that the actual book had gone through several printings. So it was classified in 1966 by the CIA. However, what was failed to be mentioned on any of these conspiracy theory websites, any mainstream articles that came out, or clickbait articles, if you will, that have come out throughout the years about this book, nobody mentions that it was always readily available for purchase. You could buy it on Amazon today.
Yes, because you told me, I haven't heard about this. You told me about it, and I'm like, interesting. Let me look it up, see what I can find. I'm like, it's for sale everywhere. And there were different publishings. There's the 1966 publishing. There's a 1993 publishing.
That's the copy I got.
And then I believe there was one, was it like 2002, another publishing version came out. So I'm looking at it like, I don't know how it could be classified.
If it's out there.
It's out there.
Right.
For purchase, for public consumption. I don't quite get that. Color me confused.
Yeah, and again, it was very difficult to find any information about it. Maybe I'm just not looking in the right places, I don't know. But any research I did, I was unable to find out why the CIA classified it. But apparently, it was only one. They came across a copy of the book and classified it. That's what happened. And I don't know how it came out that they classified a copy of the book or whatever. I have no idea the story behind it, but essentially they got one copy. So I don't know if some jamoke that worked, some like field agent just got a copy and went, hey, check this out. And they said, let's classify it. I don't know, but it was literally one copy they classified, and that's it. And then the legend grew.
I don't get how that works. How do you classify
one
copy of a book that's out? For everybody.
I don't know, but like I said, that's the legend started there, because that's all I ever heard, this classified book and blah, blah, blah. And then all I did, I just looked around. You can find it for free. You can purchase it, but you can also find it for free. It's on the Internet Archive, and I'll link it in the show notes because that's where I got my copy. You can download a PDF version. I think they got an EPUB version on there. You can just download it and read it for yourselves. But essentially, where was I going with this now? I'm sorry. We went
CIA classified it.
So they classified it.
But it was available for everyone.
But it's been available, yeah. So I don't know why. But anyway, the story is essentially this gentleman, Chan Thomas. He's the first. He's the one that brought cataclysmology into, made it a reputable field of study, if you will. So he went around and he just studied throughout the years histories of cataclysms and events that have supposedly taken place in the past. And I mean, you could really lend a lot of credence to the theory that a lot of people hold, that our civilization currently is not the only one that there's ever been. You have stories of Atlantis, things like that. There's underwater structures that have been found, giant steps and things that are on the sea floor, and you're just like, well, how'd this get here? Like,
giants. You said giant steps. I'm like, giants.
Well, yeah, but that's the thing. So where did all this come from? Where did these stories that we've heard throughout the years, mythology, things like that, where did they come from? were they previous civilizations and they're just living on today through mythology and through stories, just getting passed down through the generations, kind of like a game of telephone.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, what I'm going to do for everybody's listening pleasure is I'm going to read about what Mr. Chan Thomas here says will happen if we were ever to experience an event like this, which he is describing as a pole shift. So this is directly from the book. With a rumble so low as to be inaudible, growing, throbbing, then fuming into a thundering roar, the earthquake starts. Only it's not like any earthquake in recorded history. In California, the mountains shake like ferns in a breeze. The mighty Pacific rears back and piles up into a mountain of seawater more than 2 miles high. Then starts its race castward. With the force of 1,000 armies, the wind attacks, ripping, shredding everything in its supersonic bombardment. The unbelievable mountain of Pacific seawater follows the wind eastward, burying Los Angeles and San Francisco as if they were but grains of sand. Nothing but nothing stops the relentless, overwhelming onslaught of wind and ocean. Across the continent, the 1,000-mile-per-hour wind wreaks its hell, its unholy vengeance everywhere, mercilessly, unceasingly. Every living thing is ripped into shreds while being blown across the countryside, and earthquakes leave no place untouched. In many places, the Earth's molten sublayer breaks through and spreads a sea of white-hot liquid fire to add to the Holocaust. Within 3 hours, the fantastic wall of seawater moves across the continent, burying the wind-ravaged land under 2 miles of seething water coast to coast.
Sounds like a party.
In a fraction of a day, all vestiges of civilization are gone, and the great cities, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Chicago, Dallas, New York, Boston, are nothing but legends. Barely a stone is left where millions walked just a few hours before. A few lucky ones who managed to find shelter from the screaming wind on the lee side of a high mountain peak, such as Mount Massive, watch the sea of molten fire breaking through the quaking valleys below. The raging waters follow with supersonic speeds, piling higher and higher, steaming over the molten earth fire and rising almost to their feet. Only great high mountains such as this one can withstand this cataclysmic onslaught. North America is not alone in her death throes. Central America suffers the same cannonade, wind, earth fire, and inundation. South America finds the Andes not high enough to stop the cataclysmic violence pounded out by nature in her berserk rage. In less than a day, Ecuador, Peru, and western Brazil are shaken madly by the devastating earthquake. The Andes are piled higher and higher by the Pacific's supersonic onslaught as it surges over itself against the mountains. The entire continent is burned by molten earth fire, buried under cubic miles of catastrophically violent seas, then turned into a frozen hell. Everything freezes. Man, beast, plant, and mud are all rock hard in less than 4 hours. Imagine that. Europe cannot escape the onslaught. The raging Atlantic piles higher and higher on itself, following the screeching wind eastward. The Alps, Pyrenees, Urals, and Scandinavian mountains are shaken, then heaved even higher when the wall of seawater strikes. Western Africa and the sands of the Sahara vanish in nature's wrath under savage attack by wind and ocean. The area bounded by Zaire, South Africa, and Kenya suffers only severe earthquakes and winds, little inundation. Sounds like we need to move there. Survivors there marvel at the sun, standing still in the sky for nearly half a day. Eastern Siberia and the Orient suffer a strange fate indeed, as though a giant subterranean scythe sweeps away the Earth's foundations, accompanied by the wind in its screaming symphony of supersonic death and destruction. This guy's got a way with words here, huh? As the Arctic basin leaves its polar home, Eastern Siberia, Manchuria, China, and Burma are subjected to the same annihilation as South America. Wind, earth fire, inundation, and freezing. Jungle animals are shredded to ribbons by the wind, piled into mountains of flesh and bone, and buried under avalanches of homogenized seawater and mud. Then comes the sudden, seemingly infinite supply of terrible, instantly paralyzing temperature drop of 180 degrees Fahrenheit. Not man, beast, plant, muck, earth, nor water is left unfrozen in the entire Eastern Asian continent, most of which remains below sea level.
This guy is like the ultimate optimist, isn't he?
Right. Antarctica and Greenland, with their ice caps, now rotate around the Earth in the torrid zone, and the fury of wind and inundation marches on for 6 days. During the 6th day, the oceans start to settle in their new homes, running off the high grounds. On the 7th day, the horrendous rampage is over. The Arctic Ice Age is ended, and a new Stone Age begins. The oceans, the great homogenizers, have laid down another deep layer of mud over the existing strata in the Great Plains, as exposed in the Grand Canyon, Painted Desert, Monument Valley, and the Badlands.
And on the seventh day, the earth rests. It's like the Bible, and on the 7th day, God rests. It's like, oh, the earth rests. It's just kind of...
Well, we'll talk about that in a minute. The Bay of Bengal Basin, just east of India, is now at the North Pole. The Pacific Ocean, just west of Peru, is at the South Pole. Greenland and Antarctica, now rotating equatorially, find their ice caps dissolving madly in the tropical heat. Massive walls of water and ice surge toward the oceans, taking everything from mountains to plains in gushing, heaving paths while creating immense seasonal moraines. In less than 25 years, the ice caps are gone, and the oceans around the world rise over 200 feet with the newfound water. The torrid zone will be shrouded in a fog for generations from the enormous amounts of moisture poured into the atmosphere by the melting ice caps. New ice caps begin to form in the new polar areas. Greenland and Antarctica emerge with verdant tropical foliage. Australia is the new unexplored continent in the North Temperate Zone, with only a few handfuls of survivors populating its vastness. New York lies at the bottom of the Atlantic, shattered, melted by earth fire, and covered by unbelievable amounts of mud. Of San Francisco, Los Angeles, Chicago, Dallas, and Boston, not a trace is left. They all will join the legends of the 7 cities of Cibola. What's left of Egypt emerges from its Mediterranean inundation new and higher, still the land of the ages. The commonplace of our time becomes the mysterious Baalbek of the new era. A new era! Yes, the Cataclysm has done its work well. The greatest population regulator of all does once more for man what he refuses to do for himself and the planet on which he lives, and drives the pitiful few who survive into a new Stone Age. After this cataclysm, we join Noah, Adam and Eve, Atlantis, Mu, and Olympus, and Jesus joins Osiris, Tearoa, Zeus, and Vishnu. So that is the introduction to this book.
Setting the tone.
Now, you made a comment about how, and on the 7th day, and it's funny how this is what he's saying would happen. Now, again, this is a theory. But he's basing his theory, again, on years and years of research. I think I read somewhere it took him almost 20 years to get this book published. So, I mean, that in and of itself is pretty amazing. But he went through Scripture and tried to decipher Scripture, find different references to a cataclysmic event in Scripture, in the Bible. Oh, go ahead.
Here's the thing with that, though. Does the Bible really tell the truth of what happened? Right?
Well, the Bible has been changed to many. There's so many different versions of it. So who knows?
What version of the Bible is he going?
Well, that's the thing, and I read that he spent over 7 years translating different versions of the Bible. So he must have gotten different languages and just looked through a lot of different versions of the Bible to try to get some of the common stories and common themes. But it is pretty interesting that this is what he says would happen.
And when is this supposed to happen?
There's no set timetable. I mean, everybody estimates that his estimate in the book is that what is it? I think 5,000 years apart. So based on his timeline, we were due whenever, right around the time he wrote this book. So any day now, according to his theory.
You're reading that, and you're reading the description he gives of everything that's happening. And I'm sure there's so many people who hear that and imagine it. They picture it in their mind of what it would be like. And what do? Do we go to the basement? Do we make an underground bunker for shelter? Do we go up high in the mountains? And I'm thinking all those things of what can you do? And then I thought, well, if you're going to die, I bet it would be such a wonder to just watch it happen. I'd be like, give me the front row seat. Let's take it. We're 1,000-mile-per-hour winds. I don't know if we're going to know what hit us.
You wouldn't even know it hit you if that was, if that was real.
Yeah.
Now, again, the basis of all these, of this theory and the claims that he's making in his book is the Earth a globe? Is it flat? When I say you, I mean the listener. What does one subscribe to? What do you think? What do you feel? We've talked about the flat Earth theory.
We had David
Weiss on our show a while back, and he made some very interesting arguments and interesting points. I personally, I don't know what it is. I have no idea. I know that I don't believe anything the government tells me.
Here's
that's
the thing.
Just that's just me. But there's plenty of evidence and things to show that we are on a flat plane. Are we? I don't know for sure. I have no idea.
Here's the thing with that. I feel that whatever we're on, it's not what they're telling us it is. That doesn't resonate with me. It doesn't feel right. Maybe it's something different. Maybe the Earth isn't necessarily flat. Maybe it's something else, but we don't know. Maybe it's different layers on layers. Like, who knows?
Perhaps, yeah, it could very well be. A lot of the reading through the book, he talks about dinosaurs. He talks about a lot of things that I feel are not true, and there's plenty of evidence to support that dinosaurs were a made-up thing.
We did an episode.
I think we talked about it in an episode.
We did.
One of our earlier shows.
Go back.
So there's a lot of things that he talks about. He talks about overpopulation and all these kind of things that are just, I think, are just nonsense personally. But again, this is an educated, I put up in quotes, educated man. He was a doctor. And so I don't know. This is the kind of stuff that you read in books back then. And this is the kind of stuff that these scientists believed, or a lot of them still do believe it. Is it true? I don't know. I just know that especially nowadays, most of the stuff that we're told is propaganda. And that's undeniable. I'm sorry. I don't care where you stand with things, but the majority of quote unquote information you find out, it's propaganda. There's very little real information out there anymore. You have to go out and research and figure things out on your own if you want to be absolutely sure. And even then you have to question, am I right? Am I wrong? So I don't know, but he does make a lot of compelling points. But again, for you to even give any credence to this text, you'd have to believe that we are a spinning globe, that we have a core, an Earth's core, and we have two poles, and those poles would shift, and that's what would cause this type of a cataclysmic event. And so he looks at previous civilizations being like Zeus, like the Mount Olympus and things like that. The gods, that kind of thing. He looks at those and says those were previous civilizations. The stories were just passed down through generations, and that's essentially we're hearing about previous civilizations. Is what he's positing. So, is he right? I don't know. This is his book. This is his research. This is what he came up with and what he presented to the world. And the CIA felt it was important enough to classify one copy of. Which, again, is so just...
I'm still scratching my head on that. I'm confused.
So suspect to me. But, again, it grew the legend of this book, at least for me, because I was wondering for the longest time, why is it classified? What do they talk about? What is this? Is this really what's going to happen? And then I do some digging and find out that it's not... Yeah, it was classified, but you can find it. It's not like it's some, like, national security secret or anything like that, so...
Yeah, like I said, I don't get all of that. But one thing that pops in my head is I could see the government being like, we want to scare people. We want them to, have this fear, but make it look like, oh, we don't want them to know. You know that reverse psychology.
Like a reverse psychology effect. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, sure.
I could totally see that as well.
I'm still scratching my head over they classified one copy. The only thing I can think of was that one copy like the first print that came out?
And was something taken out of it before it went to that information I couldn't find anywhere.
Like, did he put dates in it and they took that out, or ways to get the date? I don't know.
It's quite possible. That's information I could not find. What baffles me too is that somebody did a FOIA request on it. Why did they why didn't they just go to their bookstore and buy it? Like, try to find it and buy it. You know what I mean? Like I think that's the other part of it that made me go, oh, there was a FOIA and they released only 57 pages. And that whole story that went about, especially in recent years. And it's like, okay,
was that done
like,
for
why
disinformation?
That's what I'm thinking. Like, why would they even bother doing a FOIA request? Why didn't they just write back to the person, just go buy it? It's available in stores. You know what I mean? Like, it's just kind of.
But I want the redacted version.
Right.
Well, has anyone compared the redacted version to
the
book to see what they redacted?
Yes, I did see where somebody did it, and it's very easy to see. It whatever they redacted was nothing that was like. It's like, why'd they redact this? This is kind of silly. Yeah, I did. I am going to put a lot of links in the show notes. I'll see if I can find that site again. I'll have to look at my history.
This is the government just messing with us for fun. They're like, want to do something really funny? Let's get this book and we're going to classify one copy and people are going to think it's a big deal. And then we're going to redact stuff in it that has nothing to do with anything.
When somebody finally asks us for, puts in a FOIA request for it.
And we'll just, redact random stuff. It won't make sense.
If you want to have some fun, put in at the Adam and Eve story, CIA and into YouTube and see all the different videos that have popped up that people have done on this. It's pretty crazy. I watched a few of them and I'm like, where are you coming up with this stuff, people? Like, what? But it's incredible, just the fact that this was classified and then declassified and only partially declassified. That's where I think a lot of the people, it just fuels the paranoia, the suspicion, and the conspiracy theory.
So does the author say anything about why the polls shift so fast, and could it happen gradually? Like, what is the reason that this happens and it's definitely the polls shifting and it's really fast?
It's not a gradual change at all. So it's one of those, like, you're not going to see it coming type of deals. Like, just one day, everything's done within, what did he say, 6 days, everything's over. Mm-hmm. But the initial onslaught happens fast.
No, I get that, but I guess, does he say what causes
instability in the Earth's core?
Instability in the Earth's
Which again,
core.
that's something that the furthest we've ever drilled down was 8.5 miles. So how do we even know what the Earth's core is, or where the Earth's core is, or where the center of the Earth is? Again, that's more back to the flat Earth theory, and that's another reason a lot of people buy into that instead of the globe, because anything that's ever said, any models you've ever seen when you were in high school or anything like that, where it shows you the little layers of the Earth and what it is. It's like, how would you know that? Yeah, exactly, because we've never been that far. So how would you know what's there?
And that's the thing with this. It's all theoretical because we don't know. And there's no real proof to show that's happening. I mean, when you think about what NASA puts out, a lot of it is these computer-generated images. Are they really real? Who knows? We don't know. And I mean, I feel like us personally, we're at the point of like, who can we really trust?
Nobody.
Nobody. We can trust each other, and that's about it.
That's really what it comes down to. Yeah,
it's like, I don't trust what you're saying. It's like, you obviously have ulterior motives.
I'm sorry.
No, you go on.
The author actually mentions that in the conclusion of his book, that when this happens, it'll be a great thing because the Earth is overpopulated. We are corrupt. We've allowed greed to take over our institutions. Like, he goes off on this big thing about it. how it'll do us good.
Here's the flaw with that.
Because we can't do it ourselves.
Yeah.
The earth will just take care of us because that's what has to be done.
This is the flaw I see with that ideology. That's like when you hear about these cataclysms, that was it. Noah, his ark was because, man went so bad. Like you hear all these stories and it's because, we did the earth wrong, basically. Like we couldn't behave. Seriously, do you see a pattern with these stories? And it's almost like did that really happen, or is this just what you're trying to say to scare us to be good? It feels like the parents telling their children.
Because we've gotten worse.
No, I know, but it's like the parents telling like the kids the cautionary, scary bedtime story of you better behave or the earth will be wiped out. Like, I don't know. I get it. But I get what they're saying, but I don't know. I don't know if it's like, oh, the earth gets mad. The earth always restores itself. Our earth is so incredible. If you look, like, for example, the other day, yesterday.
Let's quantify by saying this is Monique's theory.
This is my theory. I'm outside walking in the woods, exploring some of the land on our property that I haven't really looked at before. And the previous people who lived here would throw their junk in the woods. And I'm walking around and I see a tire and I see a small tree starting to grow through that tire. I see some plastic buried and the earth is already growing, and back there it's really damp, so there's moss growing on top of the soil over the bit of plastic where part of it's just sticking out at the top. And you just see trees, they die, they fall, and how just everything regrows and rebuilds. And I see that as like the earth is so incredible that it can regenerate itself. You hear about Chernobyl, and that apparently I heard like that's growing plant life and everything.
Well, they said that there was plants and everything growing in Hiroshima as well.
Yeah.
Within a couple of months of the supposed nuclear explosion. And that's another one. I don't want to get into that, but nuclear bombs, are those really real, or is that another fear tactic that's used? I don't know.
With time, I truly believe the earth can absolutely heal itself. Is this a cautionary tale of treat the earth well because she'll eventually get sick of it and put us in our place? Okay, but it's the way all this is like set up and presented to us that's just really hard to swallow. I look at it like, are there cycles of things that happen? Sure. But when you try to put it like because man can't behave and they breed too much and you can't, you guys commit crimes and the government's corrupt. It's like, do you really think?
Well, again, I think those are the writings of a man who is quote unquote educated.
You're putting your personal opinions in there.
Well, it's his book. Why wouldn't he?
It's like, are you trying to make yourself feel better about it? Like, hey, if the end's going to come, we did it to ourselves because you can't swallow the fact that,
he's a doctor.
You can do
he's
nothing
a scholar.
wrong.
He's
and
an
something
educated
bad can
man.
happen.
This is the academia. This is where this gentleman came from.
I look at it
that's how, I mean, come on. Think about it. The experts, quote unquote experts, they all say the same stuff.
Yeah.
They all say the same stuff. They all speak the same way. Are they wrong? I don't know. I don't agree with their viewpoint. Are they right? I don't know, because I don't agree with their viewpoint. But I don't know if they're right or wrong. I just know that I don't agree with them.
I don't agree.
Because not everybody is evil or wrong or corrupt. It seems like the corrupt or evil people, what we now deem as evil, those are people that are in positions of power. Mm-hmm. That's not the majority. So the majority has to suffer because of the actions and greed of the few. Is that because that's how I would interpret it? That's how I see it.
That's how it comes off.
But that's this man's opinion. It's his book. That's what he wrote.
Yeah.
And again, he's echoing, in my view, he echoes the sentiments of a lot of people from academia. This is how they think. This is how they operate.
And to me, I feel like that is basically to get people to think like it's your fault. like when they say like the ocean's polluted and you need to use paper straws instead of plastic because, especially in the United States, because you're causing all that pollution. If you actually look at who causes the most pollution, it's not from the US. And a lot of it is from these huge global companies in other countries causing all the plastics in the ocean. So it's like they try to put all the blame on the hardworking people. Change what you're doing, because we don't want to change our ways. But if we say it's your fault and you can change your ways, you'll feel better about yourself. We're going to create a problem. We're going to give you the solution. We don't have to do it, but you will. And then you'll be happy we gave you a solution to the problem.
Well,
it's the same pattern.
They take the fact that people need to feel virtuous, people need to feel useful. And so why not give them something to feel virtuous or useful with?
Start a garden.
That would be the most useful thing, in my view, that you could do. You start a garden, you feed yourself, you help to regenerate the soil and actually do something productive and use the earth productively,
yeah.
and not pollute it and those kind of things. But of course, I mean, that's the thing, what you said. Yeah, that this is what happens. And when you now think about this too, when you are just a scholar, when you're just somebody that reads a lot of books, does a lot of research, writes a lot of papers and things like that, you're not actually going out and doing anything practical in the world. You're spouting information at people. That's all you're doing. You're spouting information. I researched, I saw this, I read this, I read this, I read this. Has anything that you read, is there a solution there anywhere? Is there a solution to anything? If there's going to be a cataclysmic event, how could we prevent it? How could we stop it? There's no solution there. It's just, it needs to be done because we're corrupt and we're this and that. Okay. And we're overpopulated. All right.
And we've already talked about the overpopulation.
I think that is the biggest crock of crap.
Mm-hmm.
But, okay, this is what this gentleman wrote.
I'm sure certain areas are overpopulated.
Of course. Certain areas are absolutely overpopulated, of course. And now think about this too. This guy wrote this book in the 60s. So at the time, what was the Earth's population back then? It was probably like 3-4 billion. Now we're up to 8.5 billion people last I heard. So we've doubled in population and size. So based on what this guy's saying, we're super overpopulated now. We're double what he said at the time was overpopulated.
Well, think about back then. That's when birth control really started coming out. Back in like the 60s.
Overpopulation and that belief by people in elites and so they say that it's overpopulated because that's just more people that they cannot control. Mm-hmm. You want to have a smaller population, especially if you are a quote-unquote elite or somebody in a position of power who has influence, because the less people there are, the easier it is for you to control them. It's a very elementary principle. It's not difficult to see why they all believe this.
And you said that, and the analogy that popped in my head, it's like, imagine having like 12 chickens, and you let them free range. You can control them. There's 12. You can find them all, put them back in their shelter at the end of the night. You can keep them safe. But if you have like 100 chickens that you let free range, because when you think about it, we're free range people. We're given these freedoms to, in a sense, do what we want, or think we have the right to do what we want. But that's harder to control, to watch over, to herd together, to do everything you need to.
You said we think we can do what we want. We think we have the right. We do have the right. We can do what we want.
We can.
We are brainwashed from birth to think that we cannot.
Thank you. But that's the illusion, is we absolutely can, but they want us to think we can't, but at the same time think we can. Like, oh yeah, you have your freedoms, you can do this, that, freedom of speech, like again, talking here in the US, freedom of speech. But like, we can do whatever we want. We are sovereign beings. Our minds are super powerful. We can do a lot more than we realize. But it's like this weird kind of like mind trick where it's like they give you your freedoms, but they also try to make you think like you don't have freedoms. Oh, and you can't do that. They put limitations on things.
Sure. But again, that's all stuff that's done from birth.
Yeah.
You're brainwashed into thinking that.
Oh, absolutely.
But yeah, that's a great analogy that you gave with the chickens. But that's what we are exactly. And the more of us there are, think they can control us? Of course not. That's what they fear the most, ladies and gentlemen. They fear everybody just saying, no, we're not listening to you.
Hey, you. Yes, you. Are you looking for a new podcast that appeals to your scientific curiosity, but is also a little bit spooky?
Show me how I died in a past life.
Well, look no further, because this cat is where it's at.
He had concerns about the ethics surrounding AI, feeling they had achieved consciousness.
Curious Cat Podcast examines the shadowy space where science and the supernatural collide. Listen every week with your host, Jennifer Holtz, as she and her guests explore what it means to be a soul in a meat suit.
We were healing karma together. They were all kind of predestined to resolve something.
Listen on all your favorite streaming apps and continue the conversation on Twitter at CuriousCatPodCA, or find Jennifer and all her links at Jennifer L. Holtz, spelled HOTES.com.
So I want to throw a hypothetical here.
Please.
Let's say this happens and we survive.
Yes.
What do you think, how do you envision moving forward as a survivor of this cataclysmic event?
Well, I'm going to refer to the good doctor, Mr. Chan Thomas here, Dr. Thomas. And he actually talked about this towards the end of his book here. He talked about it wasn't really a solution because he didn't go into that. But essentially, if you do make it, if you are one of the people that survives, he recommends that you have 2 items that need to be included in your survival equipment. Now, if the Earth's going to just flip and within hours you're gone, I don't know how you're going to have all this stuff ready to go and how you'd get to high ground or whatever. But if you were somehow lucky enough to be one of the survivors left,
I feel like you need a Sherman tank type submarine to get through,
I feel
to
a
withstand the winds.
Might be the safest bet. Possibly,
but it has to be somewhere to withstand the winds.
But if it's if you're in the water,
yeah.
What if you get caught up in a tidal wave and you're just tossed around in a submarine? How does that work? I don't know how any of that works. So
strapped in.
I don't know. And what if the submarine just gets thrown into the side of a mountain?
Right.
So really, where are you? It's one of those how do you plan for this? You really can't.
It's almost like you need a submarine and an underground bunker that comes up through the edge of a mountain to let you out into the ocean.
So right. Yeah. So if you're one of those lucky people that survives, he recommends that you have at least 2 items in your survival equipment. What he says is that these are not necessary for survival, but they are a great advantage for post-survival knowledge. So what he asks in his little conclusion here is, if you do survive, how do you know where you are? That's a great question, because if you're just tossed around and whatever, you get dropped down and placed somewhere, how are you going to know where you are?
You're in the Twilight Zone.
So he recommends that you have a sextant, the best sextant you can find. I think I'm saying that word correctly.
It's kind of like a special scope that they use for celestial, looking for the stars, kind of mapping things out. You can use it in astrology. It has these different these little lenses that move, and there's these settings. I've never used one before, so I'm not super familiar with it.
Me neither. But he tells you to get a good one. And he also says that you need to take a course in navigation and purchase the book Nathaniel Bowditch's Tables. And essentially that's it. And he also says to learn your constellations, because your position may change, but the position of the stars in the sky doesn't change. So in other words, if you're in the United States now, but all of a sudden you're in Africa, you look up at the sky, the constellations are still going to be the constellations. You're just going to see them in a different position in the sky because you're somewhere different. So having these tools and having a knowledge of the sky would help you to determine where you now are. And he also says to take a good stopwatch with you because your days may be longer or shorter than 24 hours. He also recommends taking a course in surveying and becoming an expert, or have someone with you who can take this responsibility. So yeah.
Yeah, let me get on that.
Yeah, right. So this is what he recommends if you were to be one of the lucky ones to survive.
Okay.
Like, dude, I'm not gonna be if this happens and all of a sudden I'm one of the few people that's left on Earth, I'm not gonna be thinking of, hey, do I got a stopwatch? Or do I got like this sextant? Do I care where I am in the sky? I'm gonna be looking for some fucking food and clean water.
Yeah.
First and foremost, and looking around, is anybody else alive or is it just me?
My method: fuck around and find out.
Like what? Like that's his advice. Oh, okay, that's real helpful.
How astute of you!
Like he's not wrong, but it's like,
sure,
is that
would
really?
Be great.
But again, this is from a scholar.
But here's the thing:
this is what this guy thinks.
Does it matter where the hell you are? Because
at that point,
obviously
not
that
really.
place is going to be your new home for a while.
Because think about it. Yeah, right.
It's not like you can hop on a plane.
Yeah. And if you're one of the few people left on Earth, well, you got to find other people first, right? Hopefully you're marooned on wherever you are with somebody else, hopefully. And hopefully it's someone of the other sex so that you can at least start repopulating the Earth. If you know what I mean? Like that's kind of, otherwise humanity dies.
Okay.
With you.
Another hypothetical. This happens, you're a survivor. You're a guy.
Yeah, are you saying me personally?
You.
Okay. Okay.
No,
Hypothetically.
Hypothetically.
Yeah.
And you find another woman and she's horrible. She is like the worst person ever. Do you say we need to procreate, or are you like, I'm not doing this to our species. The poles are going to shift again in like 20 years. Like,
20 years?
Because she's
What?
so awful. Her offspring are going to be awful. The Earth's going to be like,
Oh, I see what you're saying. I don't know. That's a tough one. I don't know. I have no idea.
I'm
I
such a
don't-
principle person. I'd be like,
No,
we'll
yeah.
die out.
I don't. Yeah,
It'll happen.
I don't know. Yeah, that's a hypothetical, but I don't. Knowing me how I am, probably not. Probably
you'd ditch
not.
her.
I'd be like, get out of here.
You'd find like
You
the
drive
best
me
way
nuts.
to ditch her.
I'll just be the last man on Earth. That's fine. Just leave me alone, woman. Go fend for yourself. You're a horrible human. This
You
woman.
would use her
This
as like
woman that my wife here is hypothetically describing,
as you
or
use
describing
her,
this hypothetical.
you
woman.
use her as like some kind of like trap, like to ensure
Oh my
your
gosh.
safety.
Yeah.
Oh no, you go first. You go
Trap
check
from
out that
what?
noise.
There isn't anything left. There's nothing alive.
That's true.
Plants, animals, everything's gone. That's why it's like, oh yeah, that's what I'm going to be thinking of.
And
how long are my days?
as
Where
you're-
are
as
the
you're-
stars in the sky?
As you're
You
reading
got no
that,
food.
I feel like my first thought was the poor animals and the poor plants, the trees.
Yeah, like everything is gone. So like, yeah, I'm going to be thinking of surveying the land. Like, what's this guy talking
Does it really
about?
matter where you are, though? Isn't that more of
No.
like a curiosity of like,
It-
oh, hey,
yeah.
I'm now in this continent, probably.
Oh, check it out. Hey, look. Oh, Great Pyramid. Hey, I'm in Egypt. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, like, because it's what he said. Like, the Egypt would be like fine. That's what he claims. So is that? I mean, they do call that the Holy Land. Is that why? Is that why that moniker
You've
has
just like
passed down?
been there,
through the
done that.
generations?
We don't need a flood. We've already done all that.
I don't know. I mean, you think about it though. That is pretty interesting. That land is considered sacred. Why? Is it because
Of its location.
there's evidence of these previous cataclysms that show that area was untouched? Again, we know about the Vatican, right? The Vatican Library, how they supposedly have all the information. Like they know everything there. Do they know about these previous cataclysms because of people that survived in the past? I mean, obviously we have hieroglyphics. We know that civilizations prior to ours communicated in different ways, wrote in different ways. They used pictures, glyphs, whatever you want to call them. But is there actual literature? Were there people back then that had technology that were able to record events that happened or things like that? Who knows? I would love to get into the Vatican Library, though. I'll tell you that.
Ooh.
I'd love to know what was in there. But I wouldn't be able to do it alone because I can't read Latin or anything like that. I wouldn't know what anything meant or said. I'd need a guide. I'd need like the Vatican librarian or whatever, the historian, whoever they have in charge there to like walk me around and show me around and show me things. So if you're listening,
I wouldn't trust them. Of course, if they let you in. Then,
well, if they let you in and they're letting you see and you have unbridled access to whatever, I'd be like, show me everything. I'm just going to sit here and just look at everything.
Imagine if they did that, they opened up tours, they'd probably be really expensive.
Oh,
but like, have
course.
access to our library. Just go at it.
Of course, you could go in there and it's nothing, just old books. Who knows? But yeah, it's just interesting that you've heard these stories throughout the years, and like there's got to be something to some of these stories, but what exactly? That's the mystery. Now, I think a great place to go next is the conclusion of his book. He does a postlude in his book. And this is not as long as his introduction. It's much shorter, and I'm only going to read part of it. But actually, no, you know what? I'm going to read this whole thing because it's pretty interesting, and I want to hear your take on it. All right, so this is directly from the book. This is about a legend. I have struggled all through the writing of this shortest of pieces as to where to put it, and I finally was forced into this location for lack of a better place for it. This is not a legend. I have found this legend countless times, which puts some aura of authenticity to it. Since it came from many widely separated places, if it did happen, it's more than a supreme coincidence that it did happen in so many places over the world concurrently. If it's a conspiracy to create so many identical legends, it would have taken an incredible, comprehensive, and titanic effort to formulate it all over the world and have not one person give away the fraud. You ready for this? Here. That was quite the buildup, right? The legend is this. At the beginning of a cataclysm, or maybe just minutes or hours before the start, a plethora of space vehicles descends and picks up those whom they can, so that they may survive. The legends describe the scramble to board the survivors-to-be and the many space vehicles landing at each location. Only survivors not taken could relate it. If it happens to you, be prepared for their ability to communicate with you so that you hear them in your head before they land. Answer, and always be sure to think precisely the words you say, for it is your thoughts that they receive. May the great designer be with you. And that is how he ends the book.
So the aliens show up at Rapture?
Essentially, that's what it appears. Now, the other thing about the author, Mr. Thomas, was that he was big time into researching UFOs as well. So I guess it shouldn't be that surprising knowing that he would include that at the end of his book. So what do you think of that, though? He again, that's something that he heard from so many different sources, far and wide, and like he said right there, how it would be quite the thing to pull off something like that, getting so many different people in on it, so to speak, and the people that relate the story, the legend, if you will, are people that were not taken on the spaceship. So the people that are taken on space, they're gone. These people that get put on the space vehicles, that as he describes them, they're gone. They don't come back. They just survive. So they don't come back. So the people
so how does he know they actually survive?
Well, they survive the cataclysm part of it anyway.
Okay.
They're not killed in the cataclysm, but they're seen taken up. So the only way that anybody would know of this legend is if it was passed down by people who were here who witnessed it happen.
And what pops in my head? The Twilight Zone, to serve man.
To serve man,
it's
yeah,
a
that's right.
cookbook!
That's right. Yeah, absolutely.
I was going to say spoiler alert.
Yeah, spoiler alert for the Twilight Zone from, what was it, 1969 or something. Jeez.
Black and white.
So that's how he ends the book. But yeah, again, he was studying UFOs too. So again, a scholar. This is what he came up with. This is what he said. So if the cataclysm does happen and you start to notice spaceships in the sky, make sure you're thinking precisely. He even italicizes the word precisely just to emphasize it. You've got to make sure your thoughts are clear, because they're not going to talk to you. They're just going to talk to you through telepathy, I guess.
And the thing with that is the whole alien thing. I used to be like, yeah, aliens. And then like the more, I don't know, I focused on like my own intuition, my feelings, meditating. The feeling I get is like these aliens, they're not from like up outer space. Like what they tell us is outer space. Because I don't think outer space is what they tell us. It just like, I get how like they use it in astrology and the planets, but I feel like it's something different, and they made it align to like their story of it. So we can say, but this and this and that, and it makes sense to us. But I feel like these aliens, maybe they're multidimensional beings that, you know, just come from a different plane of existence, perhaps. I'm not sure, but I don't think it's like the little green men or grays from like, you know, another solar system or galaxy far, far away.
Wherever you've heard.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
But so it makes me wonder, it's like, I mean, could it be that these things just happen? It's a natural occurring phenomenon for this planet every so many thousands of years. And when it happens, maybe these other beings know about it and they're like, okay, you know,
let's go take some.
Yeah.
Find
okay.
out.
Who survived? Who can we work with maybe, or who can we eat? I don't know.
Well, think about that too. Like the last line he says there, may the great designer be with you. Like think of that. Like if that's what we are, we're just one big experiment, and it goes on for however, you know, in the way we experience time and the way we interpret time. Is that like just a day for the great designer, God, if there is such a thing, right? And think about that. Just when I read that there, it made me think, what if we're just one big human experiment? We're just an experiment. What are they gonna do this time? How are they gonna act this time? If I give them this, if I present them with this, what are they gonna do with this? Yeah. How do the stories of fire, when fire was first, Pandora's box, you know, all that stuff, that all these legends and things, is that where those come from? Is it because, again, it's one of those, are we just a big experiment? Is that what this is? Are we just in a big science experiment?
Okay, now
the grand designer?
I'm really going to go into it, but when you think about reincarnation, if you believe in that, which I feel that, you know, we do experience many lives with our souls. And, you know, I feel like the whole point of being here is like we come here to kind of experiment in how we're going to do things, to challenge ourselves. So at the end of the day, if all goes to hell and the earth flips around and we're hit with 1,000-mile-per-hour winds and these huge mile-high waves, and most of us are going to be obliterated, okay, you know what? We're going back to source. And we're going to start over at some point again here.
I guess.
So
so what you're saying is essentially that, yeah, that sounds right. We are a big experiment.
Well, and I don't want to say like
right?
in a cruel way.
No.
But it's like it's our own experiment. Like
Maybe.
We've created it ourselves, because I feel we're all a part of source. We all come from the main source of energy, our souls, and everything that's created, it's from source or God that creates all of this for us to enjoy, to participate in, to see how we do. What do we do? How do we do with it? Because if everything was knee socks and lollipops, we get really bored really fast. So that's why we come here. We come here to grow. We come here to evolve. We come here to challenge. So is it to see, like, how do we handle knowing we're going to die? Do we try to save ourselves, or do we say, hey, you know, we had a pretty decent run, went downhill a little at the end, but, you know, overall, I think we did okay.
That seems like that'd probably be every story, any cataclysmic event, any story, it ends like that, right? like the Great Flood came because man was just becoming so terrible and so awful to each other, and the trying to build the Tower of Babel to go and try to leave the earth, and everybody defying God.
But I'm not saying, because everyone was so bad. I'm talking about like the way technology, governments, that kind of stuff.
Right, but that's what I'm saying, though. If you look at all the stories of previous cataclysms, that's why those civilizations ended, because they became so corrupt, so vile, so degenerate, essentially.
Or is that just human nature?
That's
always
a great
how
question.
it'll end up. Because honestly, like when you think about the kindest, most honest people who really do a lot of good, are they in positions of power? Usually not.
No.
Who goes for positions of power? Those with big egos, those who have greed, right? And I'm not saying everybody. I'm not saying that's everybody.
Yeah, of course.
But that's, the main theme for these things. So obviously that's what's going to happen. And
I think you're right. Human nature.
it's human nature.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Or as Kevin from The Office would say, it's human natural.
So I don't know. It's very interesting, though.
Let us know what you think about all this, though.
Absolutely. But I think the big thing with this one was just I had a not a tough time, but just the things that he was talking about, dinosaurs, overpopulation, just some of these things. I'm just like, oh, okay. So you're one of those. All right. That is the Adam and Eve story.
Yeah, let us know what you think.
Let us know what you think about cataclysmic events. I mean, you have things like Tartaria, right? Was that a previous civilization that was wiped out? Yeah. Atlantis, all those, Yeah. So anyway, let us know what you think.
If you want to share your, hypotheticals we threw out, you want to share your thoughts on it or what you would do or what you think, let us know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you, as always.
So until next time, I am your host, Monique Pliakis, joined with me by my lovely, wonderful, awesome, kind, caring, incredible father and husband, the Golden Greek, Alex Arion.
And you've been listening to the Homewrecker podcast. You called me lovely.
Yeah, you are lovely.
Wow. I don't think anyone's ever said that about me before. We love hearing from and interacting with our hearers and watchers. Feel free to reach out to us on Twitter
at HomewreckerPod.
You can also visit our website,
homewreckerpodcast.com,
where you can check out past episodes and pick up some Homewrecker Podcast gear from our online store.
Also, if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe or follow button wherever you're hearing or watching our show. That way you can be notified whenever a new episode drops. We're on all major podcasting platforms, and you can check out the video versions of our show at YouTube and Brighteon.
You can also find Monique in a few places online as well.
I'm on Twitter @_MoniqueGiselle_. If you're interested in a tarot reading, organite, incense, candles, and other cool things, you can go to my website, tarotbymonique.com. Or if you're interested in hypnotherapy, you can go to innerstandingshypnosis.com to schedule a free 20-minute consult. And follow me on Twitter @MoniquePCHT. And Alex, how can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter @TheAlexArion, and you can check out my website, AlexArionFitness.com.
And if that's too much to remember, we get it. That's why we put it all in our show notes.
Thanks for spending your time with us, and we appreciate all of your support.
We do. Thank you. We love you. Many people are unaware just how much hypnotherapy can help them, or think it's only to help lose weight or quit smoking. But there is so much more hypnotherapy can do. It can help with stress, anxiety, insomnia, phobias, performance enhancement, connecting with your spirit guides and higher self. You can even discover past lives and your life between lives. Heal traumas, break habits, find your deepest truth, or just have fun discovering who you really are, all from the comfort of your home. I'm Monique Pliakis. I'm a certified hypnotherapist, and I want to help you. Schedule a free consult by going to www.innerstandingshypnosis.com. That's INNERSTANDINGSHYPNOSIS.com. Understanding's Hypnosis. Find your power and ignite your inner light.